Hello there, my sleepy fellows. Tonight, the story begins in a part of Hogwarts that most students never think to question, not because it is hidden behind enchantments or guarded by spells, but because it feels complete, settled, and quietly finished, as though it has already told its story to the castle itself. And yet, on certain nights, when the air grows softer and the stones seem to listen, its presence can still be felt. This is the tale of the final spell in the Founder's Chamber, not a spell of power or protection, but one of balance, calm, and remembrance, a spell woven not to change the world, but to allow it to rest. The night at Hogwarts is unhurried. Lanterns glow along the corridors with a warm amber light, their flames steady and kind. Shadows stretch lazily across stone floors, and the castle breathes in long, patient rhythms. Outside, the grounds are wrapped in moonlight. The Black Lake lies still, reflecting the sky like a quiet thought held gently in place. Somewhere far above, an owl glides between towers, its wings barely stirring the air. This is not a night of urgency or danger. It is a night made for listening. As you settle into the story, allow yourself to slow down with the castle. There is nothing you need to solve, nothing you need to remember. The magic waiting here does not demand attention. It offers comfort. Hogwarts has always been a place of lessons. Some are taught in classrooms with chalk dust and murmured incantations. Others are learned by wandering the corridors after curfew or by sitting beside a quiet fire when the world feels too loud. And some lessons, older than the school itself, are kept deep within the castle's heart, where the founders once stood together, imagining a place that could endure. The Founder's Chamber is not marked on any map. It does not reveal itself to curiosity alone. It waits for calm, for readiness, for the kind of quiet that comes just before sleep. If you enjoy gentle Hogwarts, tales like this one, stories meant to help you unwind, relax, and drift into rest, you're warmly invited to like the video, subscribe, and explore more calming journeys through the wizarding world. But for now, there is no rush. The castle is patient. Take a slow breath. Let the glow of lanterns guide your imagination. And as the night deepens, allow yourself to step softly into a Hogwarts legend that was never meant to be loud, only lasting. The final spell is still there, waiting, and the story is just beginning. On this quiet night, it is Harry who first senses that the castle is listening. He does not notice it as a thought or even as a feeling, but as a subtle change in the way the air settles around him as he walks. The corridors seem a little warmer, the stone beneath his feet a little more forgiving, as though Hogwarts recognizes him not as a student rushing from lesson to lesson, but as someone simply present. Harry Potter moves slowly tonight. His steps are unhurried, his shoulders relaxed in a way they rarely are during the day. There is no weight pressing on him now, no prophecy, no expectation, only the gentle awareness that the castle feels different after sunset, kinder and more open to quiet wonder. Beside him walks Hermione Granger, her book tucked in under one arm, but not open. That alone marks this night as unusual. Hermione's curiosity is still there, bright and alive, but softened. She has learned that some mysteries are best approached without immediately reaching for answers. Her eyes move thoughtfully over the walls, the torches, the archways, reading the castle not for information, but for meaning. This place feels older at night, she murmurs, more to herself than anyone else. Ron Weasley walks on Harry's other side, hands tucked into his sleeves, posture loose and comfortable. He yawns once, then smiles sheepishly, unbothered by it. Ron has always understood something important about Hogwarts that few others articulate, that the castle is at its best when you let it be familiar rather than impressive. Older's fine, he says quietly, long as it doesn't mean more stairs. Harry smiles at that, the sound of it easing naturally into the stillness. The three of them move together the way they always have, not needing to speak much, their presence enough. There is a warmth between them that has nothing to do with spells or shared danger. It comes from years of walking side by side, from knowing when to speak and when to simply be quiet together. Tonight, they are not searching for adventure. They are wandering. Hermione slows near a tall window, moonlight spilling across the floor like a silver blanket. She pauses, resting her fingertips lightly against the glass. I think, she says gently, that the founders must have known this kind of quiet mattered. Harry nods. They built a school, he replies, but they also built a home. Ron chuckles softly. Best home I've ever had. There is no dramatic entrance, no sudden call to action, just three friends walking through a castle that has watched generations grow, learn, rest, and dream. And as they continue onward, none of them realize yet that this calm companionship, this shared stillness, is exactly what will allow the next secret of Hogwarts to reveal itself. The Founder's Chamber does not open for brilliance or bravery. It opens for understanding, and tonight, these three carry just enough of it with them to listen when the castle begins to speak. They do not realize when the castle begins to guide them. There is no sudden turn, no hidden stair appearing beneath their feet. The change comes quietly, as so many things at Hogwarts do, through subtle suggestion rather than command. The corridor ahead simply feels right, warmer, softer, as if it has been waiting for footsteps that move without hurry. Harry notices it when the torches begin to space themselves farther apart. The light between them stretches into gentle pools, creating pockets of shadow that feel calm rather than uncertain. Each step echoes just a little less sharply, as though the stone has learned how to listen without repeating everything it hears. Hermione slows beside him. "Do you feel that?" she asks quietly. Harry nods. Like the castle's breathing differently. Ron shrugs, though his voice stays low. "Reckon that's a good sign. Whenever Hogwarts starts shouting, something usually explodes." They share a soft smile and continue on. The corridor narrows gradually, not enough to feel confining, but enough to encourage closeness. Old banners hang along the walls, their colors muted with age. The crests embroidered upon them are not house symbols, but earlier designs, Lions and serpents drawn in simpler lines, eagles with wider wings, badgers surrounded by wheat rather than shields. Hermione pauses, eyes widening just slightly. These are older than the houses, she whispers, early concepts before everything was finalized. Harry steps closer to look. The thread glimmers faintly, catching torchlight in a way that feels almost intentional. He has the odd sense that the banners are not merely decorative, but observant, quiet witnesses to centuries of passing students. Ron rubs the back of his neck. Feels like we've wandered into someone's memory. As if in response, a sound reaches them. At first, Harry thinks it is only the wind moving through distant towers. But this sound is gentler, lower, almost musical. A slow, resonant hum that seems to come from the stone itself. They stop. The hum is steady and patient, like a chord held without strain. It does not grow louder when they listen. It does not demand attention. It simply exists. Hermione closes her eyes, breathing evenly. "That's not a spell," she murmurs. "It's harmony." The word settles into the air. Harry feels it then, a subtle vibration beneath his feet, like the castle's heartbeat. It does not rush. It does not falter. It feels ancient and kind. They follow the sound. The corridor curves gently downward, leading them into a part of Hogwarts that feels deeper, not physically, but emotionally. The air carries a faint scent of parchment and old stone warmed by centuries of lantern light. At the end of the passage stands a door. It is neither large nor imposing. In fact, it might easily be overlooked. A wide arch of pale stone framing a door made from dark, polished wood. There is no handle, no lock, no visible markings, only 4 faint symbols carved into the stone above it. Hermione inhales softly. The Founders. Harry recognizes them instantly, not the crests as they appear now, but their earliest forms, simple, balanced, each distinct, yet designed to fit together. Ron studies the door. "So, do we knock?" The hum deepens slightly, not louder, but fuller. Harry steps forward. The moment he does, the door responds, not by opening, but by warming. The wood beneath his fingertips feels alive with quiet energy, like embers long banked, but never extinguished. "This place isn't hidden," Harry says slowly. "It's just waiting." Hermione nods, waiting for people who aren't trying to take anything from it. They stand there together, and for a long moment, nothing happens. Then, very gently, the floor beneath them shifts. Not moving, not tilting, but softening. The stone seems to settle, smoothing its edges, as though remembering a time before it was worn by footsteps. The hum grows clearer, and with it comes something else. Voices, not speaking words, laughing, not loudly, not sharply, just the sound of shared warmth, layered and distant, like echoes remembered rather than heard. Harry feels it wash over him, not as a vision, but as a presence. He senses 4 figures standing together where he now stands. Different heights, different energies, one calm and thoughtful, one warm and steady, one sharp and brilliant, one quiet and watchful. They are not arguing, they are agreeing. Hermione's hand moves instinctively to her chest. "This isn't showing us history," she whispers. "It's showing us intention." The door begins to change. Lines appear in the wood, not etched, but revealed, as though they were always there beneath the surface. Grain shifts into subtle patterns, flowing outward from the center like ripples on water. Where the patterns meet, the wood glows faintly, warm gold and soft white. The hum resolves into a chord so gentle it almost disappears into silence. And then the door opens, not outward, not inward. It parts. The wood separates smoothly down the middle, revealing a chamber beyond that seems to breathe with quiet light. The air that flows out is warm and still, carrying the scent of candles long extinguished and parchment aged into comfort. They step inside. The founder's chamber is circular, its walls carved from pale stone that seems to glow from within. The ceiling arches high overhead, shaped like the inside of a dome, and faint symbols drift across it like reflections on water. At the center of the room stands a low stone dais. Upon it rests nothing but a simple ring of light, soft, steady, unbroken. Hermione approaches it slowly, reverently. "There's no artifact," she says. "No book, no wand." Ron lets out a quiet breath. Figures always was a trick with Hogwarts. Harry feels a deep sense of calm settle over him. The light does not pull at him. It does not ask to be touched. It simply exists, holding the space together. And then, very softly, the chamber responds. The symbols on the walls brighten slightly, and Harry understands, not through words, but through feeling. This chamber was not built to house power. It was built to end something. A final spell, cast together, not to protect Hogwarts from enemies, but to protect it from imbalance. A spell designed to keep the school from tipping too far toward any single ideal. A spell of harmony. Hermione's voice trembles slightly, not with fear, but awe. They knew that magic alone wouldn't be enough. Harry nods. So they left something gentler behind. The light pulses once, slow and steady. The first magical truth of the chamber reveals itself fully then. This place does not exist to be used. It exists to be remembered, and in remembering it, the castle remains whole. The hum fades into silence. The chamber holds them gently, and the calm mystery deepens, ready to unfold its next layer when they are ready to listen again. After the gentle pulse of light settles back into stillness, the room becomes quieter than silence, full rather than empty. The soft glow at the center of the dais remains unchanged, steady and calm, like a held breath that has no intention of being released too quickly. Harry feels the stillness wrap around him, not pressing in, but opening outward. The chamber seems larger now, not in size, but in presence. Every surface feels attentive, as though the room itself is listening for something that does not need to be spoken. Hermione takes a slow step forward, then stops herself. She looks at the ring of light with careful respect. "I don't think it wants us to touch it," she says quietly. Ron nods. "Good, because I wasn't planning to." They share a faint smile, and the chamber seems to soften further in response. Then, almost imperceptibly, The symbols along the walls begin to shift. They do not rearrange or glow brighter. Instead, they drift, slowly rotating, like constellations turning in a night sky. As they move, the stone behind them lightens, revealing faint etchings beneath, lines, curves, fragments of text worn nearly smooth by time. Hermione draws in a quiet breath. "Those are spell structures," she whispers, "but unfinished ones." Harry studies the patterns. He recognizes the feeling of spell work without recognizing the spells themselves. There is no sharpness here, no pull of power waiting to be released. These spells feel like thoughts paused mid-sentence. Ron scratches his chin. Why leave them unfinished? The answer comes not as a voice, but as understanding. The ring of light at the center of the chamber dims slightly, and from it spreads a gentle ripple, like moonlight moving across still water. As it passes over the floor, faint impressions appear, footprints that are not really footprints, outlines of presence rather than form. 4 figures emerge. They are not solid and not exactly transparent. They are shaped from light and shadow together, softly defined, their features suggested rather than detailed. Yet there is no mistaking who they are. The founders stand around the dais, not as legends. As people, they are calm, unhurried, their postures relaxed in a way that suggests deep trust. One rests their hands lightly on the stone. Another stands with arms folded, thoughtful rather than stern. One leans forward slightly, curiosity alive even in stillness. The fourth watches quietly, eyes steady, expression composed. Harry feels no awe rush through him, only familiarity. "They're not showing us themselves," Hermione murmurs. "They're showing us the moment." The figures do not speak, but the chamber fills with quiet intention. Harry senses discussion, not argument, not debate, but careful consideration. The unfinished spells on the walls begin to glow faintly as each figure gestures toward them, one by one. Each spell carries a different energy: ambition, curiosity, order, independence, powerful qualities, necessary qualities, dangerous in excess. Ron shifts his weight. They were choosing what not to finish. The understanding settles gently into place. The final spell was not a single incantation. It was a decision. The founders had crafted many powerful enchantments, spells that could have shaped the school into something precise and controlled, or endlessly expansive, or sharply disciplined, or fiercely independent. Any one of them, completed, would have tipped Hogwarts out of balance. So they stopped. They left the spells unfinished, not abandoned, but intentionally paused. Bound together by the ring of light at the chamber's center, these fragments became a living equilibrium, a reminder that strength does not come from dominance, but from harmony. The figures around the dais turn toward one another. Their expressions soften. They agree. As one, they step back. The images fade, not vanishing abruptly, but dissolving into the ambient glow of the chamber, as though returning to the stone itself. The symbols along the walls slow their movement, then come to rest. The room exhales. Hermione's eyes shine softly. That's the second layer, she says. The twist isn't what the spell does. Harry nods. It's what it refuses to do. Ron lets out a slow breath. Leave it to the founders to save the school by not finishing their homework. Harry smiles quietly. The chamber responds again, but differently this time. The ring of light at the center of the dais rises, only an inch, hovering gently above the stone. As it does, the glow expands outward, bathing the room in a warmth that feels profoundly reassuring. The unfinished spells along the walls dim further, their outlines becoming fainter, as though content to remain incomplete. Harry feels something settle within himself, the pressure to understand everything, the need to resolve every uncertainty. It eases. This chamber was not built to provide answers. It was built to model restraint. Hermione sinks slowly onto the edge of the dais, sitting without touching the light. They trusted the future, she says. They trusted that balance would need to be maintained, not enforced. Ron sits beside her, careful and uncharacteristically reverent. They trusted people. Harry remains standing, absorbing the quiet depth of the moment. He realizes now why the chamber feels so calm, why it does not demand secrecy or defense. The final spell is not a lock. It is a lesson. The light lowers itself gently back onto the stone, becoming once more a simple, unbroken ring. The chamber brightens slightly, then settles into a steady glow that feels complete. Nothing else happens. And that, Harry understands, is the point. The second magical truth reveals itself fully. Hogwarts endures not because its magic is strong, but because it knows when to stop. The room holds them for a while longer, allowing the understanding to sink in naturally. There is no urgency to leave, no signal that they should stay, just quiet acceptance. When they finally turn toward the chamber's entrance, the symbols along the walls have gone still. The hum has faded entirely. The founder's presence has returned to memory, but the balance remains, and with it, a calm certainty that some of the most powerful magic in the world is the magic that chooses gentleness over force, patience over control, and trust over certainty. The chamber has revealed its deeper secret, and now it waits, peaceful, complete, and ready to let the night continue unfolding at its own unhurried pace. The Founder's chamber remains softly illuminated, the ring of light resting quietly at the center of the dais. The unfinished spell fragments along the walls now little more than faint impressions in the stone. The air feels settled, balanced, as though the room has finished telling its story. And yet, beneath that calm, something lingers. Harry senses it as a gentle expectancy, like the pause after a sentence when the meaning has landed, but the speaker has not yet left the room. The chamber does not urge them onward. It does not close itself away. Instead, it holds them in a quiet suspension, allowing the understanding to deepen at its own pace. Hermione is the first to notice the subtle shift. "The light," she murmurs, "it's changing." Harry looks again at the ring on the dais. At first glance, it appears the same, but as he watches, he realizes the glow is no longer perfectly even. It pulses faintly, slowly, like a calm heartbeat. Each pulse sends a soft wave through the chamber, barely perceptible but undeniably present. Ron folds his arms loosely, feels like it's checking something. Hermione nods, or waiting. They do not move closer. Instinctively, all three seem to understand that this part of the chamber's magic does not respond to proximity, spells, or touch. It responds to attention. Harry lets his breathing slow further, allowing the room to set the rhythm. Within each pulse of light, the chamber reveals another small detail. Nothing dramatic, nothing startling, but meaningful all the same. Along the walls, the faint spell fragments begin to align, not forming complete incantations, but arranging themselves into gentle patterns. Some drift closer together, others move slightly apart. The motion is so slow, it could be mistaken for imagination. Hermione watches carefully. They're adjusting, she says, like scales finding balance. Harry understands. The unfinished spells are not static relics. They are living intentions, constantly recalibrating themselves as the world above them changes. When the castle grows too rigid, they soften it. When it becomes too chaotic, they steady it. The suspense builds quietly, not from danger, but from realization. This isn't just history, Ron says softly. It's still working. The chamber seems to acknowledge this truth. The pulses of light grow slightly clearer, not brighter, but more distinct. Within each one, Harry feels a gentle tug, not pulling him forward, but inward, encouraging reflection. He thinks of Hogwarts as he knows it, the moving staircases, the portraits arguing and laughing, the classrooms where rules exist, but curiosity thrives, the Great Hall, shifting to meet the needs of the moment, all of it balanced, all of it imperfect, and yet enduring. Hermione steps slowly around the dais, careful not to disturb the ring of light. As she moves, the stone beneath her feet warms slightly, responding to her presence. She pauses, resting her hand against the carved wall. I think, she says thoughtfully, that the suspense isn't about what happens next in the chamber. Harry nods. It's about what happens outside it. The chamber does not answer, but the silence feels like agreement. The ring of light pulses again, and this time something new happens. A soft glow spreads outward, not across the floor, but upward, climbing the walls, tracing the outlines of the unfinished spells. As the glow passes, faint images appear, not scenes, not visions, but impressions. A classroom is settling into quiet as students focus. A disagreement easing into discussion, a rule bending just enough to allow kindness. Each image fades as quickly as it appears, leaving behind a feeling rather than a picture. Ron swallows gently. It's showing us outcomes. Hermione's voice is calm, but filled with awe. It's showing us what balance feels like when it's maintained. The suspense deepens, not because something might go wrong, but because something could. Harry realizes then that the Founder's Chamber is not sealed away to protect its magic from misuse. It is hidden to protect people from misunderstanding it. Anyone expecting power, authority, or control would find nothing here. Only those willing to sit with uncertainty long enough to appreciate restraint would understand what they are seeing. The ring of light pulses once more, then slows. The images along the walls fade completely, leaving only the soft glow and the quiet presence of the room. The chamber feels heavier now, not oppressive, but significant. Ron shifts his stance. Feels like we're reaching the part where we decide something. Hermione glances at Harry. Not with spells, she says, with intention. Harry feels the weight of that truth settle gently into his chest. The suspense reaches a new point, not a peak, but a stillness. The room is waiting to see whether they will try to do something or simply allow the magic to remain as it is. Harry takes a slow step back from the dais. The ring of light steadies. Hermione follows his lead, retreating just enough to signal respect rather than retreat. Ron mirrors them both, hands relaxed at his sides. Nothing dramatic happens. And yet, everything feels right. The chamber responds not with reward, but with release. The pulsing light slows further, then evens out into a constant, gentle glow. The warmth in the stones settles. The unfinished spells drift back into their resting positions. The suspense dissolves, not into resolution yet, but into calm readiness. Harry understands now that the Founder's Chamber is not a place that demands guardians. It requires witnesses, people who can recognize when enough has been done. The chamber has shown them that balance is not maintained through action alone, but through knowing when to stop acting. The air grows lighter, as though a held breath has finally been released. The symbols dim to their faintest state, and the hum that once filled the room does not return. The Founder's Chamber has finished its work for now, but the understanding it offers continues to unfold, quietly, steadily, ready to shape the choices of those who carry its lesson beyond these ancient walls. And with that gentle suspense resolved into calm awareness, the chamber settles once more into peaceful watchfulness, content to let the night move forward at its own unhurried pace. Not quieter, because it was already quiet, but calmer in a deeper way, as though it has finished holding something important and has gently set it down. The air is warm and steady, and the soft glow from the ring of light no longer pulses or shifts. It simply is. Harry stands still for a moment, letting the feeling settle. There is no sense of urgency pressing at his thoughts, no expectation that he should act quickly or decisively. The chamber does not demand exploration, it allows it. Hermione moves first, but slowly, her steps measured and respectful. She walks along the curved wall, studying the faint spell fragments etched into the stone. Up close, they appear less like spells and more like sketches, ideas paused mid-creation, lines softened by time. These weren't abandoned, she says quietly. They were trusted. Ron follows a few steps behind, hands loosely folded, gaze drifting from the walls to the ceiling and back again. Funny, isn't it? He murmurs. All that power, and the choice was not to use it. Harry nods. That's the choice, isn't it? They explore the chamber without separating too far, instinctively staying within sight of one another. The room feels welcoming, but deliberate, as though it prefers togetherness to solitude. No corners hide secrets, no shadows conceal danger. At the edge of the chamber, Harry notices a shallow recess in the stone wall. It holds nothing, no object, no inscription, but the stone there is smoother, polished by touch rather than magic. People have stood here before, not to cast spells, to think. Harry rests his palm lightly against the stone, feeling the warmth beneath his skin. It does not react, it does not glow, and somehow that feels reassuring. Hermione sits gently on the edge of the dais, careful not to disturb the ring of light. She folds her hands in her lap, posture relaxed, thoughtful. I think this is where the founders stood when they made the final decision, it says. Not when they cast the spell, but when they decided to stop. Ron lowers himself onto the stone floor nearby, leaning back on his hands. Must have been strange, he says, knowing you could do more and choosing not to. Harry looks at the ring of light again. It feels complete, not lacking. He realizes something important then. They didn't stop because they were afraid, he says slowly. They stopped because they understood that some things need room to change on their own. Hermione smiles softly. They trusted future generations. That thought settles warmly among them. The chamber seems to respond, not with movement or sound, but with ease. The stone beneath them grows slightly warmer, the light along the walls softening as though evening has deepened. Harry becomes aware of a subtle choice presenting itself, not outwardly, but inwardly. They could stay longer. They could analyze every fragment, every pattern, every implication, or they could accept what has been given. Harry steps back from the dais first. It is a small action, almost unnoticeable, but it carries meaning. He is choosing not to reach for more. Hermione notices immediately. She rises as well, smoothing her robes. You're right, she says. This isn't a place to take from. Ron gets to his feet, stretching quietly. More like a place to remember how to leave things alone. Harry smiles at that. They walk one slow circle around the chamber together, not searching, not studying, just acknowledging the space. The walls glow faintly, content. The ring of light remains steady, unbroken. At the chamber's entrance, Harry pauses. The doorway stands open, revealing the softly lit corridor beyond. There is no sense of dismissal, no signal that their time is over, only readiness. Hermione glances back once more. I don't think this chamber expects visitors often, she says. No, Harry agrees, only when the castle needs reminding of itself. Ron chuckles quietly. Or when students need reminding they don't have to fix everything. They stand there for a moment longer, letting the choice fully settle. Then, together, they step toward the exit. The chamber does not close behind them immediately. It remains open, light spilling gently into the corridor, as though offering reassurance rather than farewell. As they leave, Harry feels no sense of loss. Nothing has been taken away. Nothing has been left behind improperly. They carry with them exactly what they chose: understanding, restraint, and calm. Behind them, the Founder's chamber remains unchanged, balanced, complete, and quietly watchful. It does not need guarding. It does not need remembering in detail. It only needs to exist. And as the door begins to soften back into stone, leaving no trace of where it once stood, the choice feels final in the best possible way. Not an ending, a settling, a gentle continuation of a lesson that will unfold not through spells or power, but through how they walk back into the world above, carrying balance with them. Step by unhurried step, the corridor beyond feels familiar again. Stone walls, steady torchlight, the gentle curve of Hogwarts guiding them onward. And yet, something has changed. Not in the castle, but in how the castle feels to them. The air seems lighter, the space between thoughts wider. Harry is the first to sense the revelation fully, though it comes to him not as a sudden realization, but as a slow unfolding, like a page turning on its own. He stops near a tall archway where moonlight spills across the floor, painting the stone in soft silver. Hermione and Ron pause beside him, instinctively matching his stillness. "I think I understand now," Harry says quietly. Hermione turns to him, her expression open and calm. "The final spell?" Harry nods. "It wasn't something the founders cast on Hogwarts." Ron frowns slightly, thinking. "Then what was it cast on?" Harry looks around. The walls, the light, the quiet night stretching endlessly through the castle. "On themselves," he says, "and on anyone who would come after." The words settle gently between them. Hermione's eyes brighten with recognition. "A spell of restraint," she whispers, "of balance. They bound their own power, not the school." Harry feels a warmth spread through his chest as the pieces align, the unfinished spells, the ring of light, the refusal to complete what could have made the school something rigid or overwhelming or unchanging. "They trusted the school to grow," he continues, "to change with its students. They didn't want Hogwarts to become perfect. They wanted it to stay alive." Ron lets out a slow breath, leaning against the stone pillar. "So all this time, people have been looking for the Founders' greatest magic, and it was never something you could use," Hermione says, "only something you could learn from." The realization deepens, spreading outward like a calm tide. The final spell was not hidden because it was dangerous. It was hidden because it was gentle. Harry understands now why the chamber felt so complete, why it asked nothing of them. It was never meant to be activated again. It was meant to end something. The idea that every problem requires more power, more control, more certainty. The spell ended ambition before it became domination. It ended curiosity before it became recklessness. It ended order before it became cruelty. It ended independence before it became isolation. Balance, preserved not by force, but by trust. Hermione rests her hand lightly on the stone wall, grounding herself. "That's why the magic still works," she says softly, "because no one is trying to control it." Harry nods. It only exists as long as people respect it. Ron smiles faintly. "Leave it to the Founders to make the strongest magic in the castle, the one that tells you to stop." They stand there together, the castle stretching endlessly around them, old and young all at once. Harry realizes something else then, something quieter, but just as important. The Founders' Chamber didn't open because they were brave. It opened because they were calm. because they weren't searching for answers or solutions, they were simply listening. That's the insight, Harry says finally. Hogwarts doesn't need saving, it needs understanding. Hermione laughs softly, the sound barely echoing. That might be the most comforting thing I've ever heard. The castle seems to agree. A distant bell tolls somewhere, soft, slow, not marking time so much as acknowledging it. The torches dim slightly, their flames settling into a deeper glow, as though the night itself is leaning toward rest. Harry feels no triumph, no sense of having reached a conclusion. Instead, he feels settled. The kind of settled that comes when something important has been placed exactly where it belongs. He thinks of future students, wandering these halls, learning spells, breaking rules, laughing, worrying, growing. None of them will know the details of the Founder's Chamber. None of them need to. They will feel its effect in quieter ways, in moments of kindness, in rules that bend without breaking, in a school that remains welcoming even as it challenges. Hermione looks at Harry and Ron, her voice warm. "I'm glad it was us tonight." Harry smiles. "Me too." Ron yawns gently, the weight of the night finally settling to his shoulders. "Reckon the Founders would approve of us heading to bed now." Harry chuckles softly. "I think they'd insist on it." They turn back toward the path leading to their common room, footsteps unhurried. The revelation does not push them forward or pull them back. It simply walks with them, light and steady. Behind them, far beneath the castle, the Founder's Chamber rests once more, unchanged, complete, and silent. Its final spell continues not through magic alone, but through every choice made with patience, restraint, and care. And as the three friends move deeper into the quiet heart of Hogwarts, the understanding remains clear and comforting. Some legends are not meant to be told loudly. Some spells are strongest when they are never cast again. And sometimes, the greatest magic of all is knowing when enough is enough. By the time they reach the familiar stair that curves gently toward their common room, the castle has settled fully into night. Torchlight rests against the walls like a soft memory, no longer flickering, but holding steady, as though even the flames have learned the value of stillness. The echoes of their footsteps fade quickly, absorbed by stone that has listened to countless evenings like this one. Harry feels the calm deepen rather than fade. The Founder's Chamber no longer presses on his thoughts, not because it has been forgotten, but because it has been placed somewhere safe within him. The understanding they gained there does not demand attention, it simply is. Hermione walks a little slower now, her earlier alertness softened into quiet reflection. She doesn't reach for her book. She doesn't speak. The silence feels companionable, complete. Ron lets out another gentle yawn, rubbing his eyes. "Best kind of adventure," he murmurs. "The kind that ends with sleep." Harry smiles, warmth spreading through him. He notices how different this return feels from others. There is no lingering tension, no sense of unfinished business tugging at the edges of the night. Everything has resolved naturally, without effort. They pause briefly at a wide window overlooking the grounds. Moonlight stretches across the lawn, silver and smooth, and the lake beyond reflects the sky without disturbance. Even the forest seems at rest, its dark outline calm rather than foreboding. Hermione rests her hand lightly on the stone sill. "I think Hogwarts wanted us to see that tonight," she says softly, "not because something was wrong, but because everything was already right." Harry nods. "To remind us that balance doesn't have to be maintained with force." Ron snorts quietly, or late-night heroics. They share a gentle smile, then continue on. As they near the entrance to the common room, the castle seems to grow warmer still, not through magic that sparkles or glows, but through familiarity. The portraits along the walls are quiet, their usual murmurs hushed. Even the staircases seem content to remain still. Harry feels the day loosen its hold on him. Thoughts slow, muscles relax. The rhythm of the castle carries him forward without effort. When they finally part ways, Ron heading ahead, Hermione lingering for just a moment, the goodnights they exchange are soft and unhurried, spoken without the need for emphasis. "Sleep well," Hermione says gently. "You too," Harry replies. He steps into the common room, greeted by the low glow of embers in the fireplace. The space is peaceful, wrapped in the kind of quiet that feels earned rather than imposed. Chairs stand where they always have. The air smells faintly of wood smoke and old pages. Harry climbs the stairs slowly, each step a small release. In the dormitory, moonlight filters through the curtains, painting the floor in pale silver. The beds rest in neat rows, undisturbed. The room feels safe, familiar, complete. As Harry settles beneath the covers, the final traces of the night's mystery soften into memory. The Founder's chamber does not fade. It simply becomes part of the castle's deeper rhythm, a steady presence beneath the stone. He closes his eyes, breathing evenly. There is nothing more to uncover, nothing more to decide. The final spell has done exactly what it was meant to do, not by changing the world, but by allowing it to rest. And as sleep arrives gently, the calm remains, unbroken, reassuring, and kind, carrying Harry into a quiet night where balance holds and the castle keeps watch without asking anything in return. Far above the towers, the moon drifts slowly, unhurried, casting a gentle silver glow across stone and sky alike. Within the castle, every corridor rests in quiet understanding, as though the walls themselves have settled into a shared breath. Harry sleeps peacefully now, his thoughts no longer wandering, his dreams light and untroubled. The lessons of the night have folded themselves into calm memory, leaving behind no questions that need answering, only a sense of balance that feels warm and steady. Nothing is waiting to be fixed, nothing is calling for attention. The Founder's chamber lies once more beneath the castle, unseen and content, its final spell continuing exactly as it always has, not through action, but through quiet presence. It does not glow or stir. It does not need to. Its magic lives in the gentle rhythm of Hogwarts itself, in the way the castle allows room for growth, rest, and understanding. You are safe here. The stone walls hold the night gently. The lanterns burn low, keeping watch without waking anyone. Even time seems to move more slowly now, respectful of rest, careful not to disturb the peace it has found. If thoughts drift through your mind, let them pass like clouds across the moon, soft, distant, unimportant. There is no need to follow them. The castle will remember everything for you. Tonight is for rest. Tonight is for stillness. And tomorrow will arrive in its own time. As sleep draws closer, allow yourself to sink into the calm that surrounds you. The magic here does not demand belief or effort. It simply exists, steady and kind, offering reassurance without words. Hogwarts remains as it always has, watchful, welcoming, and wise enough to know when silence is the greatest gift. So rest now. Let the warmth of the castle hold you. Let the quiet settle deep and gentle, and drift into sleep with the comforting knowledge that balance remains. The night is peaceful, and you are exactly where you need to be.